Wonderful. All right, well, we'll get started. So, what we do, Alexis, since you're new to the group, we usually begin with just spending a few minutes before we start to meditate. We spend a few minutes doing what we call purification. And what that means is we just kind of check in with ourselves and see if there's anything that is maybe a hindrance to meditation. And last week we were talking about what are the hindrances to meditation. There's 5 of them that are pretty predictable and pretty common. The first is sense desire, where you'll sit down to meditate and then maybe you start to think, oh, I'd like to get a cup of coffee, or I'd like some water, or I wish I had a blanket, or you start kind of wanting something to make the experience better. So that sense desire is one of the first things that comes up. Sometimes it's referred to as greed. It's not like a greediness for money, but it's just kind of a I want something that isn't here. The second hindrance that can get in the way of meditation is ill will. So if we're perhaps upset with someone, or we have a little bit of anger in our hearts and minds, that can get in the way of meditation practice. Sometimes laziness can do it. Usually if you make it here, laziness isn't an issue because you got here. But at home, it's meditation is one of the simplest things you can do, but it's amazing how much willpower it takes if you're at home, because it's so easy to just stay in bed or just watch a show or something like that. So we have to be aware of that. And then there's worry and restlessness. If we're worried about different things in our lives, that can create a restlessness in the mind during meditation. So that can be a hindrance. And then the 5th is doubt. You can start to meditate and then think, I don't think I'm good at this. I don't think I can do it. And just that little bit of doubt is enough to sometimes, separate us from a good meditation session. So for purification, we're just checking in with ourselves. So I invite everybody to just close your eyes and just kind of observe what's going on internally. Is there anything that is a hindrance that you can let go of? So for me, sometimes I just go through and I think to myself, okay, I'm comfortable physically, so I'm going to let go of all of the sense desire that I might have for other physical comforts. Is there any anger? Is there anybody I'm mad at, or is there any hurt feelings that I'm dealing with? If so, I can set those things down metaphorically, just leave them aside for a while we meditate. So I kind of go through and just look for those things. So it's nothing major usually, it's just subtle things. So we find that we can let go of those, and this is our purification. So releasing those things. And then tonight I wanted to also begin with just a little bit of self-directed metta, sending loving kindness to ourselves. In the end of our practice, we do the 4 Brahma Viharas where we send loving kindness out to others. But tonight I'd like to just take a moment to send it to ourselves. We sometimes neglect ourselves. So I'll speak for you. You can just kind of let these words sink into your heart and into your mind if they are good words for you. So may I be well. May I be healthy. May I be free from suffering and pain. May I be surrounded by love and kindness. May I be joyful and happy. And may I be equanimous, which means balanced and peaceful and not feeling like I need anything, just feeling like everything is okay. So may this be so. And along with that, the purification. I'll ring the bell. there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, let's begin with our guided meditation. So you can do whatever you'd like to do to get comfortable for that. Don prefers to lay down. A lot of people like to lay down when they meditate. Other people, sitting in the chair is good.
I love laying down, but I fall asleep. I get so relaxed.
Yeah, real easy to doze off if you're laying down. But
it's really relaxing.
But we'll meditate for about 30 minutes together. So whatever makes you feel comfortable, you can just do that. There's some extra cushions and yoga mats, things like that in there. So however your body is positioned, the idea is to let go of the conflict in the body so that you can be peaceful during the meditation. So it's helpful to find some symmetry in the body. So whether you're sitting or laying, if you have both sides of your body doing about the same thing, so that you're not supporting more weight on one side or another, that both of your legs are straight, both of your hands are kind of symmetrically placed, whether at your sides or across your tummy, however you'd like to be, but just having some symmetry to the body. That helps to make it so we can relax as we go forward in the meditation. And the next thing we do is we close our eyes when we meditate, and the reason we do that is to eliminate visual distractions. Because pretty much everybody, if you're looking around while you're meditating, you tend to think about the things you're seeing, and so it's helpful to keep the eyes closed. It just helps you to concentrate. Breathe naturally. Don't manipulate your breath in any way. If you're able to breathe through your nose, that is helpful as we'll go further along into the practice. And then if you're laying down and you find yourself getting drowsy or feeling dozy, you can always just sit up for a few minutes if you want to, which will often wake you up enough. So having said that, I'm going to sound the meditation bell, and as soon as the bell goes into silence, I'll start to guide us through the practice. So just follow the sound of the bell. Follow the sound of the bell as it fades into silence. And let that silence be a natural invitation to turn your senses inward. So we're doing something that is contrary to our normal habit. Normally the mind is focused outward on things that are happening in the outside world. But for now we turn the senses inward. It's helpful to focus on the sense of being in your own body. There's just a feeling of presence, of sitting here or laying here, this feeling of occupying your body and being present. You can just bring your awareness to that as a way of anchoring yourself. And then with that awareness established, that sense of presence and that sense of being, let's bring our awareness together up to the top of the head and to the area of the scalp. So now with awareness focused on your scalp, just open up to any physical sensations that you might notice in the scalp. So physical sensations, they might be temperature sensations. You might feel warm or cool through your scalp. If you're wearing a hat, you might feel the warmth of that on the scalp, or you might feel the contact of the hat on your scalp. Sometimes there are sensations of air movement, with the air moving around in the room, perhaps Perhaps you notice that. Sometimes there's just simple sensations on the surface of the skin of the scalp. There might be a little tickle or an itch or a tingle. So we're simply opening up awareness to the natural sensations in the body. At this point, the scalp, just observing, noticing as sensations arise and pass away. And one thing to look for now is for tension anywhere in your scalp. Sometimes we find that there's muscle tension in the scalp, and if we discover that, we can let it go. It's very simple, just noticing tension, allow it to leave the body unconditionally, and then continue to observe the sensations. You'll notice an increased sense of peacefulness as you release tension, feeling more stability in your own body. Now, from the scalp, let's move our awareness downward. Feel it moving downward into the forehead, spreading through the forehead, down through the eyebrows, and into the eyes, and then also moving from the scalp down into the temples. So once again, with our awareness focused here, we just open up to any physical sensations. Temperature, air movement, sensations on the surface of the skin. And we're not looking to intellectualize this or get into a lot of thought about what these sensations are or what they mean. We're just observing them with bare attention. Just watching as they come up, as they fade away, not judging, not thinking this is a good sensation or this is a bad sensation. We just observe. And in these areas, the forehead, temples, eyebrows, and eyes, if there's any tension, again, we just let that tension leave the body. Very simple. Tension will leave the body when we recognize it and we allow it to go. And then you can observe the increased peacefulness, the increased stability. Now, from the temples, we'll move our awareness downward, this time into the ears. Feel as your awareness flows down into your ears. I'll start to name a few parts of the body here, and as I do, just move your awareness through and observe the sensations. And then if you're noticing tension, you can simultaneously let that go. So letting the awareness flow down into the ears, experiencing it there, allowing the awareness to flow forward from the ears into the cheekbones and into the face. Just feel it spreading. As we continue to observe this movement of awareness, we often notice that there's a very soothing, pleasant feeling as the awareness flows through the body, illuminating our natural sensations and giving us an opportunity to let go of all tension. From the eyes now, you can let the awareness flow down through the nose. Feel it moving through the lips and the mouth and the chin. Observing those sensations, again, just objectively. Simple sensations, just observe and let the tension go. You might find tension in your jaws, your teeth might be clenched a little bit, maybe your lips are pursed. So you just notice the tension, allow it to leave the body. Sometimes it's helpful to even smile to the tension as it leaves, letting it go free, allowing your body to become more and more relaxed and peaceful. And now, from the chin, you can let your awareness flow downward into your neck. Feel it moving through your throat, the front part of your neck. Feel it moving through the sides of the neck. and then in towards the back of the neck. Again, just observing sensations, temperature, air movement, sensations on the surface of the skin. And anytime we notice tension, we just release. Let it go peacefully, unconditionally. Now we move awareness downward again into the shoulders, spreading throughout the shoulders, observing the sensations. And here in the shoulders, we might notice the sensation of contact. You might feel your shoulders making contact with the floor or the cushion or the back of the chair. Or sometimes you might notice the feeling of your clothing making contact with your skin. So simple sensations to be observed. Let the tension go. If your shoulders are at all shrugged, just let them drop. And now from the shoulders, we'll let the awareness move down again. This time we'll guide it down into the upper arms. So with awareness in the upper arms now, we'll look for a moment at the biceps or the front of the arms. Observing and releasing, and then rotating inward to the inside part of the upper arms. Again, just observing and releasing, rotating around to the backs of the arms or the triceps. Simply observing sensation, letting go of tension. The triceps or the back of the arms might make contact with the chair or the floor. So these might be sensations that you notice. You rotate once again to the outer surface of the upper arms, from the shoulders all the way down to the elbow joints. Just observing sensations as they arise and pass, letting the tension go, creating this new, very positive, very soothing habit energy of observing objectively and letting the body come to complete rest by releasing tension. Now you can observe as your awareness flows downward through the elbow joints. Feel it flowing down through the forearms. Feel it moving downward through the wrists. Feel awareness passing through the wrists into the hand. And then once the awareness is in the hands, notice the different parts. The heels of the hands, how their sensations are unique. The palms, moving around to the top part of the hands, unique sensations here. Moving awareness through the thumbs and fingers. Again, just aware of sensation, letting any tension go in the hands. And then bringing awareness finally down into the fingernails. These are such very small areas of the body, the fingernails. With our awareness focused here, see if you can detect any subtle sensations. And sometimes there's just a very faint pulsation or a feeling of energy in the fingernails. This helps us to focus the mind, sharpen the awareness. And now from the fingernails, we will move our awareness to the top of the chest. Kind of begin with the collarbones, spreading across the collarbones, and then let the awareness flow downward through the chest, just moving through slowly all the way down to the base of the sternum. And then once the awareness is in the base of the sternum, let it move outward through the rib cage. And again, you're just noticing each sensation as awareness flows through and letting go of the tension as you notice it. Now, you can bring your awareness from the rib cage up into your underarms. And from the underarms, let the awareness spread down through the sides of the body, all the way to the waist. Again, observe this very soothing quality of the movement of awareness. There's a natural peacefulness and stability. There's a feeling sometimes of joyfulness. Now with awareness in the waist, you can bring it forward into your belly. Begin to observe the sensations in your belly. You might notice it rising and falling as you inhale and exhale. Or sometimes there's a feeling of expansion and contraction, filling and emptying. So just observe the sensations in your tummy. And if there's tightness in the muscles, just let that go. Let your belly be free and relaxed. Continue to observe the sensations. And now from the belly, we're going to move around to the back. So bring your awareness around to the top of your back, starting at the base of your neck. And you can let the awareness flow downward a bit, through the shoulder blades. Feel it moving through the upper third of the back. Just observing and letting go. And then letting the awareness move a little further down into the middle third of the back, observing sensations, letting tension go. An experience that many of us have is that we encounter sensations, sometimes in the back or other parts of the body, sensations that are unpleasant or are perhaps painful or difficult to tolerate. And when we encounter these painful or unpleasant sensations, it can be difficult to remain objective as you observe those sensations, and it can also be difficult to let go of tension. In these cases, it can be very helpful to just notice the expansive nature of your own awareness. That though you may be focusing on these small parts of your back, that your awareness is really infinite in what it can grasp and encompass. So there is enough room in your awareness for these difficult sensations to be just as they are, without pushing against them, without developing negativity or aversion. You can just let them be as they are. And then with this acceptance, you can also begin to release the tension. And you'll find that in releasing the tension, it makes it easier to accept the sensations. And you start to create this loop of feeling better, more peaceful, more free, less uncomfortable. Move the awareness once again down through the lower part of the back. You can keep it flowing, feel as awareness moves down into your sit bones. And feel it moving through your hips. Feel it moving through your pelvis. Again, you're just observing the sensations with objectivity, letting tension go. Moving awareness down into the thighs now. And we'll observe the different parts of the thighs. These are large muscle groups on the body, so begin with the top surface of the thighs, or the frontmost surface of the thighs, observing the sensations, letting the tension go there. Rotating outward now to the outside surface of the thighs, observing and letting go. Moving to the underneath, the underside surface of the thighs. Same process, observing those sensations. Noticing them all, letting the tension go. Even if it seems like no tension is present in a given area, it can be helpful to let the tension go anyway, go through the process of releasing. And you'll often find that there was, in fact, a little bit of tension there that you're able to let go of. And then we finally rotate to the inside surface of the thighs, moving from the tops all the way down to the knee joints, observing and letting go. And then follow the awareness as it flows down through the knees. Feel that warm, soothing awareness as it moves down from the knees into the calves. Now it begins to flow through the shins and downward, down toward the ankles, observing and releasing. Passing through the ankles, we move awareness into the feet. And we will observe different parts of the feet, the heels, and the sensations here, the soles of the feet, the balls of the feet. And we notice the tops of the feet, different sensations in each part, letting tension go in the feet. And moving into the toes, observing, and finally moving into the toenails. Again, very small parts of the body, the toenails. Focus your awareness. Just be patient and observe and see if you notice any kind of a feeling. Little pulsation, little energy. Just the feeling of some sensation in the toenails. And now from the toenails, once again, let's bring our awareness up to the top of the head and to the scalp. But this time at your own pace, you can just start to guide the awareness back down through your body. So sometimes it's helpful on an in-breath to observe a part of the body, and then on an out-breath to let go of tension in that part of the body. And then you can move, and on the next breath cycle, just repeat that process. So moving through the head and face, breathing in, you observe objectively. Breathing out, you release unconditionally. Moving downward, try to follow about the same path that we followed together, just so no parts of the body are left out. We give all parts equal attention. You'll notice in some parts of the body that tension has returned. Places where you released the tension a few minutes ago, and now the tension has returned on its own. It just kind of creeps back in sometimes in different parts of the body. What we're experiencing there is the habit energy of the body to store tension in the muscles and in different parts of the body. When we have a difficult experience during the day, maybe something that makes us angry or upset, we react to that by tensing up the body, by holding tension in the muscles. And time may pass and we might forget all about the event that caused the tension, but the tension remains and it causes us to feel the anxiety or the feeling of dis-ease. So as we notice these places where tension has reappeared, we can release the tension again and again, knowing these are the habit areas where we hold tension. We just set ourselves free over and over. And soon, the habit of holding tension in the body completely subsides. You're left with just peacefulness and equanimity. So move your awareness all the way through your body, all the way back down to your feet. And then we will move our awareness together now up to the base of the nose. And we'll focus for a moment on that little patch of skin beneath your nostrils and above your upper lip. Just observe that spot on the body, focus on it. And you can expand your awareness just a bit further to include the rings of the nostrils. And then you can expand it just a little further to include the nasal passages. So now if you can imagine you have this triangular area of the nose, and you have all of your awareness focused here. Very attentively, you're interested in the experience in the triangular area of the nose. So with your awareness focused here, simply be aware of the incoming breath and the outgoing breath. So breathing in, you know that you're breathing in. And breathing out, you know that you're breathing out. Breathing in, you're aware of the in-breath. Breathing out, you're aware of the out-breath. Try to stay with the full duration of the breath with your awareness. So staying with the full in-breath as it begins, it slows, it stops eventually and pauses, and then it becomes the out-breath. You stay with the out-breath, following it as it slows and pauses, and then it becomes the out-breath. And as you observe the breath in this way, remaining attentive, you might notice that some in-breaths are a little longer, some are shorter. The same is true of the out-breath. So you're just aware. Breathing in, you know you're breathing in. Breathing out, you know you're breathing out. As you're following the movement of the breath, still with your attention in the triangular area of the nose, see if you can notice the touch of the breath anywhere in the triangular area of the nose. So as you breathe in, there's a feeling of touch as the air moves through. As you breathe out, there's a feeling of touch as the air moves through. You're just observing that feeling of touch along with the movement of the breath. And as you observe the touch, you might begin to notice more subtle sensations within it. As you breathe in, the air might feel a little cooler on the nose, and then when you breathe out, it might feel a little warmer. As you breathe in, the air might feel a little more dry. And as you breathe out, it might feel a little more moist in the nose. So you're just observing these subtle sensations of the breath, along with the touch and the movement of the breath. And just let this be your only focus now. Remain focused on the triangular area of the nose. Sometimes there will be distractions that come up. Maybe there'll be a sound in the room or from outside the building, and your attention momentarily wanders away, going to the sound. As soon as you notice that, this is a wonderful opportunity to return your awareness to the nose and to the breath. And in so doing, we train the mind to return and to stay on the object of meditation. So outside sounds are unavoidable. Just accept them, but return your awareness to the triangular area of the nose. Just reestablish awareness. Focus for one more in-breath, one more out-breath. If another sound comes up, just do the same thing. Let go of the sound without reacting. Follow the breath. Sometimes we're distracted by physical sensations. might feel a little restless or feel fatigue somewhere in the body, and this pulls awareness away from the breath. But here, in the same way, all we need to do is be aware, and in that moment of awareness, we guide our awareness back to the triangular area of the nose. And just focus one more time on the in-breath, on the out-breath, on the sensations of the breath. Just remain aware. Sometimes we'll be distracted by the mind itself, remembering something, imagining something. If this happens again, all we need to do is recognize it and return our awareness to the breath. Each time we do this, we strengthen our ability to remain focused. We increase our ability to concentrate, and we reduce the amount of distracting phenomena that would normally pull our awareness away. So just stay with the breath, practicing like this over and over as often as you need to. And so now let's just spend a few minutes together in silent meditation, with everyone refocusing their awareness on the triangular area of the nose, focusing on the breath, and in just a few minutes I'll sound the bell to end the meditation. Everybody just take your time. No rush. Start to bring your awareness back into the room. Open your eyes whenever you're ready. If you want to move around, that's fine. You can stand or stretch, change positions, do whatever you need to do to get comfortable in your body. And you can also just maintain the feeling of peacefulness. If anybody wants tea, there is tea in the kitchen, air pot in there, and tea and cups and all that. So if anyone's interested, help yourself. I'll just take a minute here before we move on to the next thing. How did that feel to you, Alexis? Feel pretty good? Feel like you were able to stay with the with the guidance throughout most of it? That's good. That's great. Good deal. It's a very basic practice, but I've been doing this for years and years, and this is the practice that I do every day. About the only difference is that I usually do it a little longer, but essentially I follow the same steps. I guide myself through the body scan, just to really get the body in a place of peace and restfulness, and then start to focus on the breath. So it's really the same thing. I just do it a little longer on the breathing part. So very good meditation practice to use. And this is the one we do at the beginning of all of our Tuesday night meditation classes. So, for a minute. Okay. Going back to Taming the Wild Elephant tonight. Did you want another one of these?
Yeah, I'll take one.
Okay. Great. Would you mind placing one on the chairs or mats of our other folks here? Thank you, thank you. So we'll just give folks a minute to come back. One of the things that I will do sometimes during my meditation is when I get a distracting sensation, I'll actually kind of think to myself, oh good, there's something that I can look at to see what to see how I'm reacting to it. So sometimes I'll get an itch, on the forehead or on your face or something like that. Sometimes that can really start to, bug you after a while.
Yeah.
But I'll become aware of that, and then it's like, oh, here's something that I can use to focus on. This is something I can look at to see how I'm doing with these distractions, and then bringing the awareness back to the breath and letting go. And then it's amazing how quickly those distractions just completely disappear, and they're just gone. So very helpful. All right, so as soon as we get our folks back, we will continue. Blanket, probably not a bad idea. It's a little cool in here tonight. Don placed a handout for everyone to. Yeah. We actually started talking about this last week, and we got about halfway through it. But we're just kind of getting into the meat of this, so we'll pick up where we left off, and this will be helpful. And feel free to ask questions, to share experiences, anything that comes up. We encourage dialogue as we go through. I wanted to share a couple of quotes before we get started. This one is from a book by Sherry Huber, That Which You Are Seeking is Causing You to Seek. She's a wonderful author. She has probably at least a dozen books, and I have probably 6 of them. She says, the degree to which I am proud, delighted, or smug when I am right is the degree to which I will suffer when I'm wrong. If I don't need to take credit, I don't need to take blame. I just thought that was a really neat quote. To the degree to which I am proud, delighted, or smug when I'm right is the degree to which I will suffer when I'm wrong. If I don't need to take credit, I don't need to take blame. So I try to work with that one in my own personal practice a little bit. I think it's helpful. It's because it is pretty easy to start wanting to take credit for all the good things that we do. But as we know, those things don't necessarily always last. So, I mentioned the 5 hindrances before we started to meditate tonight. The 5 hindrances to meditation or to right concentration, as I have it written here. So again, sense desire. I want to review it because since we just meditated together, you probably had some of this. So there's sense desire, so it's the feeling, oh, I wish I had some water or a cup of coffee, or I'm kind of hungry, or I wish I, was sitting in a different position. So that sense desire, getting in the way of meditation. Ill will, anger, aversion. So you might not have like ill will towards another person or anger towards another person, but there might be aversion. So let's say you're having some pain in your body somewhere. You can develop aversion towards that pain, and then that can be in the way because now you're going to focus on the aversion to the pain, creating a barrier there. The physical sloth and mental torpor. Just meditating, sometimes it's so easy to doze off, or it's really easy to, even if you're awake, to just have your mind kind of wander away and drift as you're going through the meditating process. So that's something that many of us experience. The guided meditation is helpful to a degree in eliminating that when we're meditating, because you're getting something specific to kind of pay attention to in all these steps along the way. And then the worry or the restlessness, just little things come up like, ooh, I need to remember to pay that bill, or I need to remember to call so-and-so when I get home tonight. Worry, restlessness, just makes it a little difficult for us to focus on meditation. And then again, that doubt, that lack of conviction. I don't know if I'm cut out for meditation. I don't know if it'll work anyway. That can get in the way. But if we let go of that, we find that we're able to meditate and it becomes quite quiet. So we enter then what are called the 4 stages of meditation, also known as the 4 jhanas. The word jhana means meditative concentration. It's a Pali word. So Jhana is jhana, meditative concentration. So a person who meditates regularly for sustained periods of 20 to 30 minutes, like we did here tonight, will generally progress along these 4 jhanas. It's not, these aren't like hurdles that you need to clear, or these aren't like levels that you need to achieve in order to feel like you're doing it right. This is really more of a description of what takes place as we're going through meditation, and then how we deal with that is important. Because since there are 4 stages, the key to progressing along the 4 levels is a willingness to let go of the increasingly pleasurable states of mind and body.
What does that mean?
Well, you start to meditate. I can share a personal experience. I was at a long-term residential retreat, one of those 10 hours a day for 10 days types of meditation retreats. And it was about the 3rd day, and after sitting for so many hours, after a few days, my back was sore, my knees hurt. It's just like physically I was in a lot of pain and discomfort. And there was suddenly this kind of a breakthrough. It was like somehow I was able to transcend the pain, and I was just able to experience the peacefulness and sort of this blissfulness of meditation. The pain was gone and I felt really good. It was almost euphoric. And it was so wonderful. Every time I meditated after that, for a few times, I was looking for that state again. And so I was stuck because I was trying to replicate something that already happened. And so as we go through our meditation, you know, there's all sorts of different stages, and they're pleasant stages. So the first thing is we're going through the body scan. You know, you're starting to release all that tension in your body, and as you're focusing on the sensations, it really does start to calm you down. You feel good. There's a peacefulness to that. And sometimes there's a tendency to just want to stay in that peacefulness of samadhi is what, or samatha rather, is what that's called. Samatha means calm, abiding. So we want to just stay with that. But if we're stuck on that, wanting to stay with that, it prevents us from naturally moving to the next level, which is when we get to the higher degree of concentration when we're focusing on the nose. So it's like then the body drops away, but we start to move towards the concentration, and so this takes us to the next sort of deeper level. And so it moves on progressively. So again, it's not something that, you know, you need to, hey, in order to do this right, I need to hit level 1, then I need to hit level 2, and so forth. Really what this is you'll start to experience these as you're experiencing these pleasant physical, spiritual, psychological experiences. Be willing to just let them pass right through you without holding on to them. And then you'll be able to progress to the next one and the next one. So it's just when we want to hold on to it. It's like, wow, this is great. Like my experience in the retreat. Finally, this is what I've been looking for. You know, this is what I've been wanting, and I finally got it. Now I know what it's about. Well, then I was stuck there, you know. So it's kind of a paradox. It's like, this is wonderful, but I have to be willing to let it go. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, you also used the word, and I know I read it before, the mental torpor.
Uh-huh.
What's that? What does that mean?
It's just sort of, well, you know, if you're slothful, and those words are kind of funny, they're kind of old-fashioned, but sloth, you're just kind of lazy. It's like, you know, I'd rather lay on the couch with my feet up and read a book than to go meditate. And then mental torpor is kind of the mental aspect like that, where it's, you can be sitting in meditation, but yeah, I don't really want to follow the breath. I just kind of let my mind wander. So it's that's kind of what mental torpor is. It's just you're not directing the mind to focus on any particular object of meditation. So that can be pleasant, and it can be, you know, something that we do. But if you're trying to move along, you know, to get to these deeper levels of concentration, so that you can have a more profound and powerful meditation, you have to be willing to let go of all that as it comes. So I'll read, you don't have to follow along, I'll read from the handout the description of the first jhana. So again, remember the word jhana means meditative concentration. So you get the first level of jhana. So reading it from the original text, this is about 2,500 years old. Having given up greed due to sense desire, that's the first hindrance, a person dwells with a heart free of greed. A person cleanses their mind from greed. Having given up the impurity of ill will, that's the second hindrance, a person dwells without ill will. Friendly and compassionate towards all living beings, a person cleanses their own mind from the impurities of ill will. Having given up sloth and torpor, that's the third of the hindrances, the 5 hindrances, a person dwells free from sloth and torpor in the perception of light mindful and clearly comprehending, a person cleanses their own mind from sloth and torpor. Having given up restlessness and worry, the fourth hindrance, a person dwells without restlessness. Their mind being calmed within, a person cleanses it from restlessness and worry. Having given up doubt, this is the last, the fifth of the five hindrances. Having given up doubt, a person dwells as one who has passed beyond doubt, being free from uncertainty about unwholesome things, or about wholesome things, a person cleanses their own mind from doubt. And when a person experiences themselves free of these five hindrances, joy arises. In one who is joyful, rapture arises. In one whose mind is enraptured, the body is stilled. The body being stilled, one feels happiness, and a happy mind finds concentration. Then, quite secluded or separated from sense pleasures, separated from unwholesome states of mind, one enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied thought and sustained thought with rapture and happiness born of seclusion or separation. So this is describing letting go of those five hindrances. And that's why we begin with a purification where we're kind of looking at, is there anything I'm holding on to that I need to let go of before meditating? So it's not like a denial where we're saying I'm going to pretend I don't have this problem, or I'm going to pretend that I don't have this relationship dynamic that's an issue. But really what we're saying is right now I'm going to meditate for my good and for the benefit of others who will be around me. And so it's going to be helpful to put these negativities down and these unwholesome states down so I can focus on this meditation. So we're letting go of those five hindrances, and notice throughout this that it is saying that we are doing the work. So it's saying like just picking a spot here at random, having given up doubt, a person dwells as one who has passed beyond doubt. Being free from uncertainty about wholesome things, a person cleanses their own mind from doubt. So in each of these, we are doing the work to cleanse our minds from whatever the negativity is. So it's saying that we have the ability to do that, and that's what we're really doing in that first jhana. So we do the body scan, we let go of all the tension, we let go of the mental negativity that causes that tension. We focus the breath, and the last couple of sentences here in that first jhana is then quite secluded, or you could say separated, from these sense pleasures, the mind finds concentration, right? We find it concentrating on the breath. Then quite secluded from sense pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states of mind, one enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied thought and sustained thought. So that's what we're doing throughout that first part of the meditation. We are applying our thought on sensations in the body, on tension, on moving through. So we're applying the mind on the object of meditation. And then sustained thought, finally moving to the breath and staying with the breath. And then we start to feel this feeling of just unnatural peacefulness and happiness comes from that. From just letting go of negativity, from feeling good in your own body and mind. This very pleasant feeling starts to take hold. So it comes quite naturally. So if we're willing to experience that and just let it go, we will easily just progress into the second jhana. So an unwillingness to let go means that the next thing can't come because there's no room. So things stagnate because of clinging. If you can't be brave enough to let go of even the good things in the present moment, or if you can be brave enough to let go of even the good things in the present moment, you make room for the next good thing to come, and it will come. So this is having an attitude of non-attachment, just letting these things flow through consciousness.
Again, this is probably, I mean, we're talking about meditation, but actually that's probably a good look for just life.
Just like, yeah, well,
Letting, I mean,
I agree.
that holding on to.
Absolutely. And more, as we get into the practice, I mean, meditation is life. It's kind of the laboratory of life. We see all this happening, and so it's really about how do we want to work with ourselves so that our relationship to everything around us changes, so we can feel at peace with even a world that's in some turmoil, or we can feel at peace when there are challenging relationships in our lives, things like that, things that we struggle with. So one of the beautiful things about these teachings, the teachings of the Dhamma, is that they all come back to compassion, they all come back to acceptance, to tolerance, to love, to kindness, just these wonderful states of consciousness that we cultivate and we share with others. And I think we recognize instinctively that, yeah, that's where we need to be. That's where we need to be if we want to be happy. Because the people that are out there who are filled with hate, there's no happiness. There's no happiness in hate. Can't be.
So, being that this is the season, do you think that Jesus had some Buddhist training in Buddhism? I mean, no, there was talk about him going.
Yeah, I know.
Because I said that's what his whole deal is.
Right.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
and if you try to make
Mm-hmm.
Christ out to be something other than loving kindness, compassion, and acceptance.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I've read some of the theory, and I've watched a documentary by from the BBC on the thought that in the days when Christ lived, if a person's father died, his uncle would take over the role as father. And so that would have been Joseph of Arimathea, and he was a merchant who traveled the Silk Road, which would have taken him to India, through India and Nepal, and back. And so in biblical scriptures, there's a pretty big gap where there's no history of Christ's life.
Well, when as Jesus was becoming Christ.
Right, yeah, there's just this
Or
big...
Jesus and then moved into becoming Christ, are those missing?
Yeah, there's just there's a big chunk of missing time, and so some have theorized, maybe that was when he was traveling with his uncle, and is it possible that he, ended up getting some of this type of Buddhist exposure or something? Maybe. It's kind of fun to think about. I don't know. It's also possible that, this is called the Dhamma, which means it's the ultimate truth. So one could say that if you had a mind that was pure enough and you really focused on the spiritual path, that you'd probably come to the same conclusions, that love is the most important thing, compassion is important, tolerance, non-judgment, that perhaps that's where we would all arrive if we were focused on that. But I think it's kind of a fascinating possibility. So now we get into what is called the second jhana. And again, it's helpful to remember that jhana just means meditative concentration. So this is kind of the second stage of meditative concentration that we go through. So you continue to meditate, and the experience is that with the subsiding of applied thought and sustained thought, so we get through the body scan, which there's a lot of direction there. We get through the training on focusing on the triangular area of the nose and watching the breath. And we get to a point where we let go of even that. So with the subsiding of applied thought and sustained thought, one enters and dwells in the second jhana, or the second level of meditative concentration, which has internal confidence and unification of mind. It's without applied thought, because we've kind of moved beyond that. There's just a real stillness in the mind. We're still with the breath. We're still focused on the in and out breath through the nose. And from time to time, we still manage our distractions in the same way, just by noticing the distractions, letting them go peacefully, and returning our awareness to the breath. And so there isn't this applied thought that we had to use to get started in the first place. That starts to fall away. And then we also start to develop a natural confidence, which is important because that fifth hindrance is doubt. And so nothing gets rid of doubt like having the personal experience of something working. You know, as soon as you experience that for yourself, it's like, okay, I see how that is. So there's a confidence that comes. And then the mind is filled with rapture and happiness born of concentration. A good word to use in place of the word rapture, which is sometimes a little misunderstood, might be transcendence, right? You're transcending your normal mode of consciousness, and you're in a place where you feel like you're just sort of beyond that. You know, like when I'm in deep meditation, you know, I really notice that I'm beyond simple cares about paying bills or, you know, other issues. You find yourself beyond that. So you could call rapture, you could call that transcendence, moving kind of above and beyond the normal cares of the world. And then there's a happiness born of this concentration. As you continue to focus the mind, confidence builds, but there's a happiness that comes from the concentration because there's nothing unwholesome in that. It's all wholesome. And then we move into the third jhana with the fading away of rapture or transcendence. One dwells in equanimity, mindful and discerning. And one experiences in their own person that happiness of which the noble ones say, happily lives one who is equanimous and mindful. Thus one enters and dwells in the third jhana. So again, we are moving through these stages. The stages, we will move through them naturally, but we have to be willing to let go of all of the pleasant sensations that come with each stage. So that second jhana, the rapture and happiness born of concentration, like my experience in the retreat, I really wanted to hold on to that because I felt like this is what it's all about, but that was the thing that kept me stuck. So we have to let that go, just be willing to allow it to move through our consciousness, and in that way the third one will come. And then comes this happiness that we get from equanimity and mindfulness. To talk about the word equanimous or equanimity a little bit, just because this is one that is a little difficult to grasp from time to time. Equanimity, if you look it up in the dictionary, it means something along the lines of a person who is poised and sort of mental and emotionally balanced, especially when things are challenging or difficult. So that's what equanimity is. It's this balance, this poise, this not getting bent out of shape about things going one way or the other. And then in our teaching, we add a little more to what equanimity is, which is to be in a state where you're not craving things, there's no attachment, you're not looking for something that isn't there. So you're in a position where you're just comfortable and accepting of what is true in the present moment. As soon as you add something like, I want this to be added to the present moment, it disturbs that equanimity. So sometimes I look at it as if you have a a little pond, you're sitting in front of a pond, the water is perfectly clear and still, almost like a mirror, just perfect. With every little desire that comes up, every little wanting something to be different than it is, it's like you just tossed a pebble into the water and, you know, it kind of ripples out, you can't see as clearly, it obscures this perfectly clear mirror-like image. And so sometimes I think of, you know, that's what the opposite of equanimity is just always, yeah, this is good, but if I had this, it would be a little better, or this is nice, however, if this was this way, it would be even better still. So there's just kind of this natural habit of wanting. So we let go of that, we let go of, so we can just be fine with what we have right here. You know, this is the present moment, whatever's happening right now is the reality, and I just accept this as what is true, and then what comes from that is happiness, just a natural happiness of this equanimity and mindfulness. So then we move into the fourth jhana. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, right? So we have pleasant experiences in the body and the mind. We have painful experiences in the body, maybe the knees or the back. You know, sometimes long meditation can take its toll on you. But with the abandoning of the pleasure and the pain, you're just saying, yeah, I know this is here, but I release it. I accept it as it is. And with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, we're just letting go of those previous jhanas. One enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, the fourth level of meditative concentration, which has neither pain nor pleasure and has a purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. So here we've entered this very deep meditative state where we're just rock solid. Things might come up that temporarily distract us. We're able to release those, return to our awareness of the breath. We usually continue to stay with the triangular area of the nose because it's an anchor point for us to focus on. So we're letting go of all of these sort of conditional types of pleasure or pain or things that are good or bad, desirable or undesirable. Letting go of all those conditional types of things, and now we're getting to something that is unconditioned, meaning that we're not adding anything, subtracting anything, trying to make it different than it is. It is the experience of the unconditioned, and that's where we find this deepest peace. And there's really blissfulness to that too. So this is just kind of that natural progression.
You know, it's for me, that using the word rapture kind of throws me off there a little bit.
Right.
Because of the connotations that
Mm-hmm.
have come with the word rapture. Like
Yeah.
the end of the world or whatever.
Right, and so yeah, so I think the word transcendence is a really good substitute.
But I don't think I've gone past the second one. I don't think I've been past the first one.
Well,
But I can't desire to be the other ones because that would defeat the purpose.
yeah, you just let them come. And so, you know, sometimes, well, it's like if you read through this and it's kind of like, oh, you're aware, then you'll notice, oh yeah, I really do go through these stages. You know, this is just happening. And it, it takes some time.
Practice.
Yeah, that's why I say it takes about 20 to 30 minutes of sustained meditation before you really get through this. If you go a little longer than 30 minutes, that can be helpful. So, but this is the natural progression of things. So, but here's the paradox. I mean, as human beings, right, we're all, we want to feel good. We want to be happy. We want to have things go the way we want them to go. We want things to be pleasant. And so there's very much of this grasping and holding on to those things that are pleasant once we've gotten them. So this is the paradox this is saying, but if you're willing to let go of even this, you'll feel even better. And if you're willing to let go of even that, you'll feel even better. And so you'll have this equanimity in which you don't have this fear of losing these pleasant states of consciousness, which is one of the things, again, my experience was in that retreat that day. I mean, that was a big lesson. The funny thing is they had told us just before we got into this meditation for the day, you're going to start to have these very pleasant experiences. Don't look for them to come back. Don't hold on to them. If you do, you'll be stuck. I looked for them to come back. I held on to them. I got stuck. So it was kind of funny. It happened just exactly as they described. But a little quote here from the Buddha. He says, "It is in the nature of things that joy arises in a person free from remorse." It is in the nature of things that joy arises in a person free from remorse, which takes us kind of back to the beginning and the 5 hindrances. So if we let go of ill will, there's none of that guilty, heavy, yucky feeling around ill will, And it does. If you're mad at somebody, or if you sort of dislike a group of people for political reasons or ideological reasons, I mean, there may be very rational reasons for that, but to have ill will in your heart towards other human beings is an unpleasant experience. It doesn't feel good. Even if you're on the right side of the argument, the ill will still doesn't feel good. So it is, those hindrances, letting go of the greed, letting go of the ill will, letting go of the sloth and the torpor, the laziness, the doubt, letting go of all of these different unwholesome states of consciousness puts us in a place where we can really be free and happy. So, in the nature of things, the joy arises in a person free from remorse.
Ken?
Yes, sir.
So, I'm looking at the first 3 jhanas,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking for happiness. But the 4th jhana, I'm looking to have neither pain nor pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I keep getting hung up on, I'm equating pleasure with happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So do I want, and by the 4th jhana, am I looking for some state of neutral equanimity or something, or where?
Well, I would say...
Why wouldn't I want more pleasure in the 4th jhana?
Because that takes you right back to the first hindrance, which is I want some sort of a sense pleasure that is going to make me feel better. So again, it's paradoxical.
Yeah, because in the jhanas, I'm still looking for happiness. I give up the sense pleasure, but I'm still searching for happiness.
Right.
By the 4th one, I'm like, well, chuck happiness, I just want to be neutral. I don't want pain nor pleasure.
Well, what you're doing is you're not even saying I want to be neutral. You're just saying I'm willing to let go of all of this. Everything that I'm experiencing, I'm willing to let go. Oh, there's pain and discomfort in my body, I let go of that. When there is no pain, there's a pleasant feeling in my body, I let go of that. I let go of joy or anger. Ultimately, you end up in this place of the unconditioned, which is like ultimate happiness. So this is nibbana. If we talk about that as kind of the end state of the practice, where you reach this degree of it's unconditioned. It means that things are no longer shaped by your perceptions or your prejudices or your ideas about them, but you're experiencing everything as it is in its perfection, in its innate perfection. And so there's a happiness that arises out of that transcends all of those previous states. Does that make sense a little bit?
I think so. I still get hung up on, I want to equate, the pleasure
Mm-hmm.
with happiness.
Right. Yeah.
Rapture and happiness.
So, and pleasure, Pleasure can be a source of happiness,
or source.
but it can also be a source of kind of angst because it's like, oh, where'd that pleasure go? Or where is it now? So it's almost like we're letting go of the simple version of it in order to get the higher degree of it, the higher level of it.
But so, I mean, even like the Dalai Lama and, you know, is it Pema? Sure.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean like, you can get to 4.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean you're always gonna be at, like, I mean, because when you're meditating every day or maybe a few times a day,
Mhm.
that's what you strive for, but realistically, you could maybe go back to the first. I mean, it's not like it's something that you get at, you achieve, you are
Mhm.
there for.
Well, you know, it's like, it's one of these things where once you've achieved it, you tend to achieve it again fairly easily. And it doesn't mean it'll happen every time.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, you know, you'll just have a day where, oh, I can't get past the first jhana.
Yeah.
But you know what? The first jhana is really great. you
Yeah.
know?
So, I mean, because it's not another thing that we have to have guilt about.
Right, yeah, not
You
at
know,
all.
I know, I mean, it's just, I'm
Right.
not guilty again, because I can't.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to keep in mind that this is not a success or failure thing. This is
Yeah.
really just the natural progression as we continue to meditate and go through this. And then we might notice that, we'll be aware of that, but we're willing to just let go of all of it. And then we progress through. There's another little quote from Sherry Huber in this book. Her books, just in case you're not familiar with her, the very first book she ever wrote, she wrote it by hand in her own handwriting, and then she had it copied and, you know, essentially just made a book by hand. She's a Buddhist nun, and she runs a meditation center out in California. She's just really brilliant. So that's the reason that these books look the way they look, so they look like handwriting. But she's just a rock solid teacher. So if you're ever interested, her books.
And I just spelled it just Huber?
Yep, Sherry spelled Cheri, and then Huber, Huber. Her books are readily available on Amazon. Yeah, and they're all wonderful. But to me this ties in a little bit. Most of us say that we want to be happy, and we believe that we do, but we lead ourselves astray with this belief. If we really wanted to be happy, we'd be happy. Happy is what's there when we stop doing everything else. In truth, we prefer almost anything other than happiness. We will leave our happiness for almost anything. I want to be happy, but. Notice that anytime we say but, we negate whatever came first in our sentence. We can doze through the first of someone's sentence of explanation and wake up for the post but information. I would like to have dinner with you, but he's very nice, but I wanted to help, but. After the but comes the real message. I want to be happy, but I hate my job. I want to be happy, but I'm overweight. I want to be happy, but my mother drives me crazy. I want to be happy, but I prefer to be judgmental. I prefer to beat myself up. I prefer to focus on what I don't have, etc. If you want to be happier now in this moment. And so this is really talking about letting go of all of these other things. That true happiness is the unconditioned.
Well, the but, every time you say but, it's something external.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The but this, but
Yeah.
that, but,
And
it's like, it's everything on the outside that's making.
Right. And it's kind of funny to just realize, you know what? I can say, yeah, I'm happy. And if I don't say but, I'm happy. You know what I mean? So, well, we're at about the end of our time here. So before we end, let's do our 4 Brahma Viharas. So this, we kind of close in the way that we began. So let's just, everybody join me for a moment and close your eyes. And I'll speak for you if you're comfortable letting my words speak for you. That's great. So right now we can imagine, we can be aware of all the people in the world, all the creatures in the world, the animals, the people, the insects who endure great suffering. And with a heart filled with compassion, we can look at the suffering of other people and we can see that suffering as no different or less important than our own suffering. And so we have the sincere wish, may all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And then with a heart filled with loving kindness, we can say, may all beings be surrounded by love and kindness. And we can say, may all beings be truly joyful, truly happy, truly satisfied with what they have. And then may all beings be equanimous. So this is this perfect balance. Feeling that you don't need anything to be different than it is. Feeling the happiness, the transcendence, the joy in just being okay with what is true in the present moment. So may that be so. And may you, sharing this space with me tonight, I'm so grateful for your presence, always blessed by your presence here. May you all be truly, truly happy. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Nice to meet you, Alexis.
Yes.
Yeah. Hope to see you again next week. You don't have to come every week. You can just come anytime you want to. So whatever works, you know. That's great. Yeah, we will be here again next Tuesday. That's January 2nd. Yeah.
See you
So
next year.
yeah. Yep. Exactly. So okay, Louie. Everybody's going bye-bye now.
She was just getting some good.
Yeah, it kind of fits just perfect for her to be right there on the back of my cushion. So wonderful.